everybody. Today we have the great honor of welcoming Ade Adepitan onto the Trips and Global on Wheels podcast hour. Ade was born in Lagos, Nigeria. At the age of 15 months, he contracted polio. The effects of the virus meant that Ade was unable to use his left leg and only had partial use of his right leg. Ade discovered wheelchair basketball when he was 12 after being spotted by two physiotherapists. Ade decided to play basketball professionally. His dream to play for Great Britain at the Paralympics finally came true. After 15 years, Ade was selected to compete in the Sydney 2000 Paralympics. The Sydney Paralympics got good media coverage. This helped to boost Ade's profile amongst the British public. After starring in a documentary called Hoop Dreams for a cable channel and also featuring in the world-famous PlayStation Double Life advert, as well as presenting a wildlife show on national TV, Ade Adepitan became a familiar face in the UK with his trademark cheeky grin and flowing dreadlocks. Ade continued to represent Great Britain for 5 more years after Sydney. In that time, he won a bronze and a silver medal at the 2002 and 2005 European Championships. He also captained his country to a silver medal at the 2002 World Championships in Japan. In 2004, Ade Adepitan achieved his lifelong ambition, winning a medal at the Athens Paralympics. So without further ado, let's listen in on my conversation with Ade Adepitan. So our first question for you, Ade, is what challenges do you face as a journalist with a disability that an able-bodied journalist may not, have to experience? I know you use a manual wheelchair due to having been diagnosed with polio when you were younger, and I myself was also diagnosed with having contracted polio as well, and I also use a manual wheelchair, and so I'd be interested to hear your perspective.
So I guess when it comes to journalism, broadcast journalism, and also, I make documentaries, and I'm a travel journalist. So my form of work involves a lot of traveling around the world. First of all, it was actually getting into the profession, finding a way or a route in. That was a challenge, because generally you don't see people like me or people with disabilities as travel journalists. So to try and convince bosses, heads of TV stations that I'm the man or I'm the right person for them to send across the globe to report or to make a documentary or make a film for them. And then once you're traveling around the world, I guess, look, there are the obvious obstacles. Luckily, my wheelchair folds and the wheels come apart, so it's easy to get the chair on the plane. I've crawled up the side of volcanoes, slept in the middle of rainforests, done all sorts of things that I guess people with disabilities are kind of not expected to do. But I think the biggest obstacle to overcome are people's perceptions, people's mindsets. So when able-bodied people tend to meet someone with a disability, the first thing they think about is all the things you can't do. And that's the thing that you have to overcome. You have to prove to them just because you're in a wheelchair doesn't mean you can't do the things that anybody else can do. You just do it in a different way. And I suppose that for me has always been the biggest obstacle. It's not the barriers that the world puts in front of me. It's the perceptions and the mental barriers or the discrimination that you will get from certain people who think, well, someone in a wheelchair or someone with a disability can't be a journalist.
Yeah, no, I I definitely agree that attitude, no barriers are very real. And I'm glad you encountered those well-connected people and now you're on the screen and seen by millions of people. I think that's so important, not only as someone of color, but also as someone with a physical disability and a very visible one as well. With the next question, what reasonable accommodation or adaptations had to be made for you to work, as a TV presenter, journalist?
Mm, that's a good question. For a long time, for me, there was quite a big fear to ask for, not so much for help, but to ask for adaptations to be made or changes to be made, in order to make my life easier. And one of the reasons why I had that fear is because I kind of didn't want to feel like I was a burden. So one of the first jobs I had, working in a studio, was as a children's TV presenter. And the studio was great, but there were little steps to get into certain sections of the studio. Some of the doorways were not quite right to get into the changing rooms or dressing rooms and stuff like that. And to move to different areas needed to be right. And for me, what I worried about was, if I made a big fuss and I said to them, oh, you need to make this accessible, you need to add ramps, or you need to do this and do that here and there, I thought, well, they would think, well, you know what, hiring someone with a disability is too complicated. Let's not hire them. Or they might think it's too expensive, and we haven't got the budget. And so I initially didn't say something. What I didn't realize is that it's everybody's human right for them to have a workplace that is accessible, that is open, and that is prepared, or that allows them to work in the best possible fashion. And so I was really surprised, but fortunately for me, one of my bosses, she also had a disability, and she made sure that the studio, when it was built, it was designed for people with disabilities. She made sure that there was ramps. She made sure the doors were wide enough. She made sure there was a lift that would take me from one section of the studio to the other section of the studio. So I was really, really fortunate in that, she was the series editor, and she had a lot of power, and she knew what rights were necessary. And so from the beginning, the studios that I've worked in have always been accessible and made accessible for me. And I think because I was always the first person with a disability to work in a lot of these studios, I created a blueprint for other studios, and gave them knowledge to prepare their studios if someone else with a disability came in to work there. So I kind of helped to open the doors.
Did you like this video? If so, share it with your friends and be sure to follow us on social media. And if you want even more resources, be sure to sign up for our email updates on our website, traipsingglobal.com.